Let's look at the electric universe. Fellow raised this issue. He said, there is no one in the electric universe community that claims gravity is equivalent to electricity. Why don't you provide a citation? And to me, this is incredible that someone would say that. It seems to me that some of these electric universers and other sects out there, they do not understand their own religion. They go to, I guess, electric universe uh, church on Sundays, Sunday schools, and they don't understand what they're listening to. And here on the right, I provide two examples. These are just two examples. One is from Immanuel Velikovsky, Russian fellow, and he's one of the founders, you could say, of the electric universe idea, okay, a long time ago. And he said in one of his papers, says, cosmos without gravitation, attraction, repulsion, and electromagnetic circumduction in the solar system. Okay, and one of his disciples is Thornhill, and he's the head, I guess, the main person in the electric universe today. And he wrote a paper in 2008, Electric Gravity in an Electric Universe. So it looks like these people are saying that gravitation is really electricity. Okay, so I just want to establish that first, that this is what the electric universe believes in, what they propose. This is their theory, that there is no gravity out there. Uh, it's really all electricity. Okay, that is their argument. Okay, what's the issue? And for this, you got to look a little bit about the history of the electric universe. And I want to first establish that Walt Thornhill, who is the head of the electric universe today, right? He was in contact with Velikovsky first, and also with another fellow. His name was Ralph Sansbury, and these people proposed, and Walt Thornhill still proposes that that gravity is really electricity. More so than that, more important than that, to answer this fellow's question, they say there is no such thing as gravity. Okay, because gravity itself is electricity. That's the argument. Okay, so here we go. First, Walt Thornhill had a video done in 2017, one of the conferences the Electric Universe had, and in it he brings, he presents Velikovsky, and he talks about the fact that Velikovsky wrote a book that I guess he gave also to Walt Thornhill, titled "Worlds in Collision." And it says there, Velikovsky's Astrophysics. That's the title of the video. You can look it up in YouTube. And he says there, gravitation is an electromagnetic phenomenon. Okay, so I think that's quite clear there. They're saying that there is no real gravitation. It's electricity or electromagnetism. Okay, I just want to establish point by point here. First, we're going to say that what these people are saying, you cannot yet say at this point, right? You cannot say that there is no gravity according to the electric universe. But what we are saying for sure so far is that the electric universe says that gravity, the one at least in our local area, our solar system, is electricity. That's what they're saying. Okay, and we're going to go beyond that. Okay, but let's first establish that point. Okay, here is why Walt Thornhill followed Mr. Velikovsky, and he says the following. He says, one of the tests of a good hypothesis, because it's not a theory until it's being tested experimentally or observationally, is the more outrageous yet correct a prediction is, the more weight it should carry in favor of that hypothesis. And Velikovsky predicted that, and he goes on giving an example about Venus, okay, which is not relevant. The issue here is that, no, a hypothesis, first of all, is not a theory, which is what he thinks it is. That's where he starts failing. That's where the electric universe starts failing. And the other one is that in science, we do not do predictions and we do not test anything. We do not do experiments. Let me repeat that. Someone says you may have misspoken. No, in science, we do not do experiments. I hope that's very clear, okay? And we do not observe. We do not gawk, okay? What we do in science is explain. We explain experiments and we explain our observations. If you have not explained, you're not doing science. Okay, so if you just described that what you did in an experiment or what you observed, you haven't done science, and that's where Walt Thornhill already fails. He's got the foundations of his electric universe already on the wrong footing. Okay, And so, yeah, and we don't do predictions again. We don't do experiments. We do, and a hypothesis is not an untested theory, or one that requires evidence of any kind. That's not what a hypothesis is. So, Mr. Thornhill already starts on the wrong footing because he's got the uh, scientific method wrong. His notion of the scientific method is irrational. A lot of that has to do with the fact that no one in the last 3,000 years defined unambiguously what the scientific method is. Okay, and when they put things such as equations, they put things like experiments and predictions and observations and all these other things that they put in there over the years. Well, for sure, it's irrational because I can run an experiment. Here's an experiment. I let go of the spoon, falls to the floor. Okay, and so I ran the experiment. Does that make me a scientist because I ran an experiment? I can even do it repeatable. I'll do it again, okay, just in case. Okay, the repeatable experiment. There it is. Am I a scientist because I observed the spoon fall? Obviously, it's just observation, and we're running an experiment. We have not done science. Science requires that you explain, for example, why the spoon dropped, what caused it to drop. And that's the type of questions people, for example, in Quora ask all the time. What causes gravity? That's what people want to know. That's what they want to understand. And that's where we have a problem today. Okay? We don't have answers to those types of questions. Therefore, the scientific method that they've been using for the last 400 years does not address those questions. Okay, so here is what science is not, okay, versus what science is. Science is not skepticism, okay. People say, oh, scientific skepticism. No, no, no such monster, okay. There is no skepticism in science. Science, you can criticize, but that doesn't make you a scientist. This is like saying that you're a boxer because you're a reporter who's sitting in the audience and you're watching, the fight, and you criticize the fight. And you say, well, he shouldn't have hit him with a right. He should have hit him with a left, or should have been faster, or should have ducked. That's not a boxer. That's a reporter. Okay, so the fact that you're a critic does not make you a scientist. The scientist is the guy who's in the ring fighting. Okay, the boxer. That's the boxer, and that's what a scientist is. You have to go in there with a theory, an explanation, and defend it against someone who attacks it. Okay, that's a scientist. So none of these things, observing, measuring, equations, predicting, doing experiments, testing, repeating the experiment, repeatable, presenting evidence, verifying, persuading, none of that has to do with anything with science. Forming clubs, some organization, making money off of it, giving out prizes, none of that has anything to do with science. Okay, that's all. Some of it is politics, some is religion, which is a synonym of politics. Okay, science, explanations. And it's got to be a rational explanation, otherwise, it's not an explanation. It's an explanation, perhaps in ordinary speech. That does not make it an explanation for the purposes of science. Okay, so here's Mr. Walt Thornhill, and he met Mr. Ralph Sansbury some couple decades ago, at least. Okay, this is what Mr. Sansbury says. Okay, he was also one of, you can say, the proponents of the electric universe. So if you want to know whether electricity is gravity and gravity is electricity, well, he's the right man to see. In fact, that's where Walt Thornhill got a lot of his information. One of the things that Sansbury said is he explained magnetism and gravity as the response of the orbitally structured electron and proton to the electric force. Mr. Sansbury thought that gravity was really electricity. Okay, and that's what he explained. Here's another piece of evidence for that. Okay, here it is. This comes out of Thornhill's paper, just I think an informal paper, but it's online from 2008, Electric Gravity in an Electric Universe. And this is what Mr. Thornhill says. He says, the force of gravity is a manifestation of the electric force. Gravity is due to radially oriented electrostatic dipoles inside the Earth's protons, neutrons, and electrons. He got that from Sansbury, and there's the reference, okay? And then he ends his paper saying, gravity is an electric dipole force between subatomic particles. On the right, you see a little drawing. You can look that up, what it's all about. But I'm just going to point out what's there underlined. The like magnets that are free to rotate all the electric dipoles in protons, neutrons, and electrons line up to produce gravity. Okay, so this is what Sansbury came up with, and this is what Mr. Thornhill inherited. He subscribed to that notion, and that's what the electric universe has today. Okay, but let's get to the bottom of it. Okay, this fellow said, yeah, but no one says in the electric universe that gravity is actually electricity, like, there is no such thing as gravity, right? That's I think what he was referring to when he asked that question. Okay, and so here it is. This comes from the book. This is one of the main books of the electric universe, A Beginner's View of Our Electric Universe by Mr. Tom Findlay. And he says the following. He starts out by saying what the argument presented by the electric universe, that the electromagnetic force is way stronger than gravity. Okay, so they said, look, it's much, so many magnitudes greater than gravity, so we have to look at electromagnetic force because you would not be able to explain gravity here in the solar system with this puny force known as gravity. But then they contradict themselves because, if you listen to that, you would say, okay, it looks like there's a difference between the electromagnetic force and gravity, according to the electric universe. And now all these other statements say exactly the opposite. There is no difference between gravity and electricity. In fact, gravity itself is really electricity, according to the electric universe. So it says, this fellow Finlay says the following, says, those who had dedicated their lives to scientific research based on gravity have wasted their time. Gravity is a manifestation of the electromagnetic force. Gravity itself is fundamentally electrical and just another aspect of the electromagnetic force. The four fundamental forces, the weak and strong nuclear forces, electromagnetism, and gravity, will all eventually be seen as having their common root in the electromagnetic force. According to the electric universe, there is no such thing as gravity because everything, absolutely everything in the universe, is electricity. And then you have the problem of, hold it, I thought you said first that electricity was so much more powerful than gravity, and now you're telling me that gravity itself is actually ultimately electricity also. Okay, so yes, that is the theory that the electric universe proposes. They have no respect whatsoever for gravity. They have no idea what gravity is. They don't care for it. They never talk about it except to criticize it. 150% of the electric universe is electricity, and they, under all circumstances, deny that there is such a thing as gravity out there. Okay, so I hope that's settled. I mean, it's up to other people to come up with, why they think differently to that. Okay, so why is the electric universe irrational? Well, here's a rundown, a quick one that I just wrote the other day. I'm going to go through it real quickly. Gravity is electricity. That's already irrational. Electricity has absolutely nothing to do with gravity other than the fact that they're both mediated by the electromagnetic rope. Then, yes, you could say that gravity is related to electricity and to magnetism, or electromagnetism, if you will. The issue there is that they're two different phenomena anyways, even under the rope model. Okay. What's the problem? The big problem is they can't even define the word electricity. And I talked about that the other day. I'm not going to go through that again, but you can look up the previous two videos where I discussed that. And what is electricity according to the electric universe? Well, it's some kind of river. That's the way they envision it. And so the question is, if it's a river, are we talking about the water or the flow? So, water is made out of molecules, and all these molecules are flowing downwards and they're moving, right? And we call that a river, moving water, okay? So when we say river, are we referring to the water or as the thing, or are we referring to the flow, what the water is doing? I hope you can understand the difference there, okay? And we say river's both, right? Well, electricity is both. Electricity is both the electron beads and the flow of these things, these beads. So when we say that we have electricity, right, are we talking about the bead, the electron bead, which is the object in this case, or are we talking about the flow? Okay, which are we referring to? Electricity is both. Electron flow, according to the official version and according to the electric universe. Okay, so you can't say that electricity itself moves or does anything. You can say the electron bead does something, but you can't say the electricity moves or does this or does that, because electricity is already flow. It's already in motion. Electricity is a dynamic concept, meaning electron flow. That's what electricity means. The word electricity means that, electron flow. So you can't say the electron flow flows, okay, which is what the electric universe does constantly. They say electricity flows or moves or goes from one region to another, from one pole to another. You can't say that in science. You can say the electron bead moves, but you can't say the electricity flows, okay, and that's where we have a problem. It's more than semantics. It has to do with the fact that these people treat electricity as a physical object. And when you say it's not a physical object, they say, well, why don't you stick your fingers in an outlet and you'll find out if it's an object. Because I guess that's the way the electric universes determine objects. They say, look, you want to see if an elephant is an object, go touch him. And if he kicks you with his trunk, then you know it's an object. That's the way they determine it. And in the case of electricity, they say, what we do, we stick our fingers in an outlet, and if it gives us a shock, we know that electricity is an object. That's the way they determine it there. Again, totally irrational. Okay, they invoke discrete planetary atom that quantum bequeathed to them. They use that planetary atom to explain ionization, electricity, the whole works. So it turns out that they built these filaments, which they say interconnects the universe. But it turns out that the filaments themselves are built by electricity, which is what? The flow of electron beads in one direction, actually. And so the question is, how can you unite? How can you bind? How can you connect the universe with discrete particles that are flowing in one direction? So these filaments are misconceived. They have not, defined them very well. They like to talk about the filaments and they show you pictures, but then when you go to the nitty gritty and say, well, what is a filament? Well, they say it's a flow of electricity, which already is wrong. You can say it's a flow of electrons. They go in one direction only. And one question there that pops up, which sun is the positive and which star is the negative pole? And what electricity travels at the speed of light, maybe, and that's what connects the universe. So yeah, a discrete universe that the electric universe inherited from quantum mechanics is just as irrational as anything coming out of quantum mechanics. Okay, all the physical interpretations are bunk. That's essentially it. Okay, then they treat plasma as an object, as a thing. And that takes 2 years to explain to electric universer that plasma is not a thing. Like electricity, plasma is a flowing river. In other words, a river that has something that is flowing, right? It's a thing that flows. That's what plasma is. Okay, there is no standalone object called plasma. And let me prove it to you. Okay, I'm going to prove it to you. Here's they say plasma is the fourth state of matter. That's what the electric universers like. One of the definitions they have. One is the fourth state of matter. And so we have solids, liquids, and gases, and then they say there's a fourth state of matter, and that's known as plasma. Okay, so what's the issue? The first issue is that state. The word state refers to what something does. It does not have to do with what something is. Okay, so if I show you a table, I say that's an object. It's standing still right there, and it's not really moving at that specific moment in which I point to it. Okay, the table, in fact, even if I don't point to it, the table is there and it has shape all on its own. It's standing there. Okay, and so the issue is that there is no motion essentially of the table. I can take a snapshot of the table and say that's a table. Okay, point to it. And the ET, the Klingon that's next to me, he understands the word table because I point and he recognizes what the word identifies. He says, okay, that object there, that's called table. That's how it works, okay? So here we point, okay, and we have a box, okay, and we call that a solid. Is the word solid a physical object? No, solid is a category, okay? Solid is a category. You have many solids boxed under that heading known as solid, okay? I point and I say liquid, and I can take a picture of a liquid, okay, which I threw right out of my spaceship, and that blob there, that has shape. You can see that it has shape, okay, and we call that a liquid, some kind of liquid, blue liquid, it could be water, okay, would freeze immediately, but what you see is something that has shape, okay, and obviously I can also throw gas outside my window, okay, and I don't know why this isn't coming out. I don't understand why some of my pictures are not coming out lately. Anyways, there's gas. You can have gas as well, okay? But, and we all know pretty much it's just a bunch of atoms, okay? At a certain distance, you can throw them out of your spaceship as well. I hope this one comes out. And here's, okay, there's your gas, okay? But you can't do the same thing with plasma because plasma is always moving. Plasma is ionized gas. Ionized is something in motion. Ionized means, according to the official version, that an electron leaves the atom. Could be acquiring one. Let's go with the one that leaves the atom, okay? So the electron leaves the atom, and suddenly that atom is ionized. That's what ionized means. But plasma is a process. Plasma is a process where you strip an electron from an atom. Okay, that's what plasma is. That's how it's defined. And these people say, no, plasma is a physical object because I'm staring at a physical object. No, I'm not. I'm staring at a movie of something in motion. I don't have to do the same thing with solid, liquids, or gas. I can take a snapshot of solid, a liquid, or a gas, and I will have something in the photograph. Okay, I can't do the same thing with plasma because as soon as I take a picture of it, it's no longer plasma because plasma has to be moving, has to be ionizing. It's a process that is in motion. Whatever I take a picture of is not plasma. I've taken a picture of maybe a bunch of atoms, maybe a gas, but certainly not plasma. Plasma has to have the word ionized in it. It's part of the word plasma. Okay, so if I take a picture of the plasma, I'm taking a picture of ionized gas, but not ionized because ionized means motion. Therefore, it's not, I haven't taken a picture of ionized gas. Ionized gas is a movie. Okay, it's a film. Plasma is a film, therefore, it's not a standalone object. And yeah, it's one of the issues that we have is that the electric universes don't understand that argument, and they say, "Well, Bill, what you're doing is a lot of semantics." They dismiss all that as semantic arguments, and yeah, what can I say? Science is 100%, 150% semantic. Here's one fellow who criticized me, and he says, I think you're taking your semantics a bit too far. You need to bring it down a few notches, otherwise you'll never be taken seriously. It's too much. And yeah, what can I say? That is exactly what science is. Science is 150% semantics. Okay, and people say, well, I don't want to do semantics. I came here to do physics. I didn't come here to do grammar or learn English or whatever. Science you need to define so that you can communicate your ideas. And you say, well, I don't know what plasma is. Well, let's continue. I'm going to treat it as an object, and I've never defined it, but I'm going to continue. You can't do that in science. We need to know what plasma is. We need to know what ether is. We need to know what all these words mean exactly before we move on, before you can begin your presentation. And so these people don't like definitions because it destroys their religion. That's the primary reason. Okay. Okay, a couple more problems with the electric universe. They introduce metaphysics jargon. In other words, it's the mathematicians who have fed the language to the masses, to the laymen, and to people like the electric universe and others, flat earthers, especially, And they use the words that they were taught in high school and college. And what are those words? Those words are, words of mathematics. They're not words of physics. They're words of mathematics such as energy, mass, force, field, time. Those are all words of mathematics. They have nothing at all to do with physics. Nothing at all. We don't use those words in four-letter words in physics. Okay? So please don't bring any of those words to explain anything in physics because they have nothing at all to do with physics. Okay? So that's the issue. And the other problem with the electric universe, they propose experiments, and because they've been taught the irrational scientific method that they inherited from the mathematicians of the 17th century, and they're just following that irrational scientific method. So they think experiments, predictions, and all this stuff has something to do with science. It don't. Period. Okay, it has nothing to do with science. And they, just like all the others, they criticize the establishment because it censors them, but they do censorship as well. So that's everybody does censorship, as far as I know out there. Okay, one good thing about the electric universe, not all bad, is here. This comes also from Mr. Thornhill, Paul Thornhill, and what he says that the universe, according to him, is connected. Sounds a lot like Mr. Haramain, which I'm going to talk briefly next. But he says the universe is connected. And what does he connect it with? Well, he connects it with electrical force, electric force. He connects it, he says, since all matter in the local universe is connected in real time. So he says it's connected. What he connects it with? He connects it with all these concepts. Okay? He talks about instantaneous motion. He says electrons exchange energy instantly. Instantly is an irrational term. There's no such thing as instantly in physics. Instantly is a word that belongs also to mathematics, to the religion of mathematical physics. It's an instant is just one frame of the film. That's what instant is. There is no motion in instant. Okay? It happened now in the cross section of time, in one frame of the universal movie. That's an instant. Okay? There is no interval called instant. Okay? And so these people want to say instantly, like motion happened in one frame of the film. That's what they're saying when they say instant or it happened instantly. No such monster in physics. In physics, you either have one frame of the film or you have many. If you have many, it's called a film, and it's not instant. Okay? And if you have a single one, then you can call that an instant. Okay? Cross section of time, now, all these synonyms. That's what an instant is. Okay? So when these people talk about electrons exchange energy instantly, they're saying there's motion, but it happens so fast that it all happens in a single frame of the movie. That's what they're saying. And again, they don't even understand what they're saying. That's the issue. And then, he says all atoms are connected. Somehow the universe is connected, but he connects them with what? Electric force, energy, concepts. That's what he connects them with. And yeah, that does remind me of Mr. Haramain, Nassim Haramain. I talked about him last time. And a fellow says about Nassim, which he brings up, he says, I have opened the third eye. Oh, he opened his third eye. Okay, I don't know what planet he came from, but he said he's got a third eye. Okay. After that awe-inspiring experience, I sampled shrooms and am open to ayahuasca. I would love to party with Nassim. Yeah, I guess if he's got a third eye and drugs himself, I guess that must, make him horny. so, so Nassim better watch out. He doesn't know all the admirers he's got out there. Anyways, this fellow says, Nassim Haramein. And this is what I forgot last time. He makes his money, apparently. He says his art crystal is providing substantial income due to an overwhelming market. And yeah, that I can believe that. Nassim is more into that than into science, than to physics. Okay, now some people say, Bill, you're taking too many liberties. In fact, I think it's the next fellow up here. He says the following. He says, you overstep when you pretend to know people's motivations for doing the work they do. There's nothing incompatible with making money and doing work you believe in. Yeah, okay, nothing wrong with that. The only thing is, my take on this is a little different. In the case of Nassim, I think that Mr. Nassim is not so interested in science, especially after his only paper that he published in 2013 went nowhere, especially with the establishment. And because it went nowhere, Mr. Nassim Haramein, he branched off, okay, into other things. He created this Resonance Science Foundation, and this is my take on him. Again, my personal opinion. I think he's an ascetic only in the sense that he introduces spiritualism and transcendentalism into physics. He certainly is not dispensed with a frugal lifestyle, characterized by what? Renunciation of material possessions and physical pleasures. I think Mr. Nassim Haramein is more a businessman than he's a scientist. I don't think he cares about science at all, especially today. Okay, he knows he can't get his stuff through the establishment. He's trying to say that the world is connected, and again, he doesn't tell us what it's connected with. Maybe if he could tell the establishment what it's connected with, the establishment would maybe take interest in what he's got to say. But since he's just repeating what the Buddhists and the Hindus have said for thousands of years, saying that the universe is connected, it's all intertwined somehow. But they never explained with what. What physical entity interconnects the universe? Mr. Haramein hasn't said so either, and neither has Mr. Wall Thornhill for the electric universe. They all talk about interconnection, filaments, everything being connected, bounded, and none of them tell you with what. What is it that interconnects us? And that's what this site is about. We are the first site that says what? What? A physical entity, a what? What interconnects the universe? That's where we differ from all these other folks.